All right, it is time for Friday Reads. Hey everyone, it is Shannon, and I'm super excited to be here today and to share with you this Friday Reads video. In my Friday Reads videos, I share the books that I finished, the books I started, and anything interesting about books that I'm carrying over week to week. Don't know if I have any Oh yes, of course I have a carryover. My first book will definitely be carrying over week to week to week to week to week to week to week for a long time. I did the math. I shouldn't have done the math. Don't do the math. You don't want to know the math, don't do the math. Anyway, as this is another week of lots of readathons, I am going to structure this Friday Reads by readathons. So I'll start with March of the Mammoths, then go to Translateathon, which also crosses over into March Mystery Madness. I actually have lots of crossover titles. Then I'll talk about some other stuff that I've just generally been reading, and then what's coming up in the future. So first up, we have March of the Mammoths. So again, I'm reading Les Misérables by Victor Hugo. This is translated from the French by Christine Donougher. And yeah, I've made some good progress on this. Thank you to everyone for your encouragement to stick with it and that the tide would turn, and it did. So I am happy about that. I have been mostly sticking with my 20 minutes a day. When I say a day, I mean 5 out of 7 days a week. I always need a couple of days where I'm like, nope. And they can be different days depending on the week. So that's sort of my out. But yeah, so this, I hit the 100-page mark. I'm actually on 107 right now. And I've finally hit the point where there is a character who I am familiar with who they are, and since then it's been a bit more smooth sailing in terms of being committed to the work and not questioning and wondering and being curious about when we're going to see someone that I feel like I know who they are. That being said, the story of that character is incredibly tough, and so it's been very emotional in terms of reading, so I'm really glad that doing the 20 minutes a day is good. I feel like my heart wouldn't necessarily take more than that. So this is I just know this is going to be a long ride, and but one of the challenges I did come up with, there were sort of like two things. One, I would like to say that I do find, and I have found, like I feel like I found the rhythm of the writing, and I think the writing is quite beautiful. That being said, I do feel like there's a bit of surprise, and maybe I shouldn't be at a 1,300-page book, that I feel like there's a fair amount of repetition of some of the themes and the important parts, and being very direct with, just so you know, I am telling you this because of, like, it's like just really direct sometimes, so that puts me off a bit. I always get put off a bit when all of a sudden I feel like the author or narrator is directly talking to me. Like, I understand, like, I value clarity, but it is pretty clear what they're trying to say. So that was a little bumpy bit. So anyway, I am continuing to enjoy is a bit. I have been actually enjoying it. I think that's because of the writing and also because of the character. The character that showed up, I'm like, I just really love the character. And it's not the character I was expecting. It actually was in terms of the story, but it wasn't in terms of what this volume is called. Anyway, yeah, I think I'm not even halfway through this volume, and I think I might lightly try and have my goal be to finish this volume by the end of the month. So if you're curious as to the math, if I stay at my current rate, it'll take me 5 months to read it. So that would be April, May, June, July, August. So by the end of the school summer. So I don't know. It's usually with books, I do at some point pick up the pace a bit more. So that might be the case here. I don't know if it will be though, because this is definitely a book that is has I need a better attention to detail, which means I need to read it during the day, which I have less time than when I do the bulk of my reading, which is at night. So I don't know. I'm sticking with it, and that's the important part. So I'm not going to focus on potential problems of the future because they may never arise. Okay, so on to Translateathon. Of course, Les Misérables does count for Translateathon as well, but in terms of some titles I finished, yay! I finished The Devil's Apprentice by Kenneth B. Andersen. This is translated from the Danish, and this is the first book in the Great Devil War series, and I did finish it, and I did really, really enjoy it. I finished it just after Translateathon, but I'm still counting it. And this follows Philip, who is a young boy, and he is accidentally ends up in hell. And he's quite a nice young lad, so it's not the best fit. And and so it's sort of like I would say it's a bit of an adventure story, sort of in a sort of dark fantasy, urban fantasy, light horror sort of vibe. You know, it's got really great supporting characters. It went some places I didn't expect. It surprised me a few times, and I just really love Philip's character and his story. It is a bit dark, of course, given the context. It's set in hell, so there's definitely people in really challenging situations, and some of the visual imagery and situations are disturbing, but there also is a lightness to it and some humor in it that sort of balances things off. I talked about this with Anita in some comments, either here and or on Instagram, and I really agree with her that the humor balances that sort of some of the darkness. And there's also like not only situational things, like Philip being in that situation is challenging in and of itself. So yeah, so I really enjoyed this, although I am in a bit of a tricky spot in terms of continuing the series, because these books are no longer available on Kindle, and I'm just kicking myself for not buying books 2 through 5 when they were available. The 6th, and which I think is the final book, I don't know if it's been translated yet, and so I'm not sure what to do. The books 1 through 5 are available on Scribd, but only through audiobook. And I don't do well with audiobook and fiction, so I generally only reread fiction via audiobook, so I might test that out by listening to the first book in the series, and if I feel really centered in the narrator and the characters and stuff like that, then I might continue on the story. But then again, they only have the first 5 books, so I'm a little unsure what to do. But the audiobooks are only 6 to 7 hours, which is a bit shorter, I think, for fiction. So I'm not sure. That being said, if I do just end up with the first book, I really enjoy where it came to by the end of the work. So I would be okay if I just leave it here, but I also would love to read more, but then I don't want to not get the final book. So it's a bit of a challenging situation, and I checked on Book Depository and Abe Books, and I couldn't find any English translated versions. So I'm just kicking myself. I find it's pretty rare for a Kindle book to become unavailable. The only other time I've ever had that happen is when I got, like, sometimes I pick up some, there's a lot of, like, urban fantasy first in series compilation type things, and I did have one of those that I deleted from my Kindle and then went to re-download it, and then it was like, it's not there anymore, and I was like, what? I didn't know that would happen with Kindle books, but it can, so I'm a little sad about that, but as I said, the first book in and of itself, I enjoyed, like, it as a whole, although of course I would love to see where the adventure goes. So that is one finish. The other finish I had for Translateathon, which also doubles up with March Mystery Madness, is The Pledge by Friedrich Dürrenmatt. So this is a Swiss author, and it's translated from the German. This is actually a novella. It's 150 pages. I picked it up just on Scribd because it was short, and then I looked into it a little bit, and then it became pretty clear pretty quickly that it was a story that has something that I tend to call it has a thing, which is something that people strongly associate with the work, whether it is a format thing like the Illuminate series. Their thing is very obvious, but often the thing is something that you don't know until maybe the end of the story. Like, I'm trying to think of some options without spoiling them, but they often just are spoilers. Something like, I often use Sophie's Choice as the example, although I've neither read nor seen Sophie's Choice. So I know the idea behind it, but I don't know the story. I don't think I can handle Sophie's Choice, to be honest. Gone Girl, I would say, is something that has a thing. So something that people know the work for. So when I was reading this, I was looking for the thing, and I didn't read the summaries enough to figure out what it was. So I kept on wondering, is that it? Is it going to be this? Are we going to twist there? Is it this character? Is it the style? Is it the format? Is the wool being pulled over my eyes? Like, all of these things. And then when it comes down to it, so I finally finished it, and I looked on Wikipedia because I needed to know what the thing was, and I wasn't quite sure from reading it. And then I realized that the thing, as a reader, you never would have picked up. You never would have been able to know, because it was something that the author was responding to from an external situation. Like, it was a response to something that had, like, another work that he wrote, and he, felt unresolved, or felt strongly, let's just say, so I don't spoil it, he felt strongly about a particular, situation, and so he wrote this as a response piece to that. So if you don't know what the other thing is, you like what the other work and what his issue, whatever, I don't know what the best word is for that, what he was responding to, like, there's no way you would pick up on, like, there's no way. So anyway, so it does, and I guess technically it does have a thing, and if I go into it, it's spoilers, so I'm not going to do that. I might do that at the end of this video if it doesn't get too long. But so I'm just kicking myself, and this is something that happens to me, and I'm aware it can happen to me because I under research because I don't want to be spoiled. So as it turns out, I spent most of the story trying to figure it out, and there is no way I could have figured it out because it was an external situation. So anyway, that being said, it probably wasn't too bad for me to do that because the story is quite harsh, and I don't normally read things that are that harsh, so this kept me engaged, as opposed to focusing on some of the details with the story. This story does involve a murder of a child, so that's going to be a no-go for some people right there, and it is definitely a darker story. And but I did think it was well written. It was well done. I thought it was a little, the format I thought might have been what The Thing was, because it follows like someone who writes detective fiction coming back from a trip, and hears this story from a policeman he gets a ride with, and so I thought it might have to do with that format, or there might be a twist in there with that, but really it was the author wanting to make a comment on something in particular, so it does. I think it successfully does do that, but I don't think you would pick up on that. I can't imagine that anyone would pick up on that. So anyway, let me know. Have you read The Pledge? Did you figure out The Thing? Did you know The Thing going in? Generally, do you like to know The Thing? And do you know what I'm talking about when I say The Thing? It's what people know the work for, and or sometimes it's like the first time it's done, or it's the first time it's done in a generation, or a time period or something like that. So yeah, I gotta come up with some good examples that are very, very ubiquitous, so they're not spoilers. Hopefully I don't think I spoiled anyone with the ones that I shared, and because they're I hopefully always vague, but helpful enough to provide some information there. Okay, on to some lighter, funner stuff, because this is heavy. So one of the other books that I finished this week that I really, really enjoyed was Harriet the Invincible, which is the first book in the Hamster Princess series by Ursula Vernon. This is the author who also did Dragon Breath, which is a series that I read last year, and they're very similar. These are kids' books, young kids' books, lots of illustrations, not many, like very few pages per chapter, and I absolutely love this. This follows Harriet, who is a princess, and her family, or mostly her mom, is on her for being more princessly, and then she so very eloquently states, "I'm a princess. If I do something, it's princessly." By definition. And they're like, yay, go Harriet. So she has adventures, and she has, I think it's a quail who is her steed, and they go on adventures and try and save people or combat, creatures that are doing bad things, and I absolutely loved it. And it's also got a bit of a magical element to it as well, and I just really, it was great. It was great. I loved it. I'm going to continue this series. It took a while for the hold for this one to come in. I have the second book out from the library now. There's 6 in total, so I have to be, I guess I should request the third one, so it won't take too long to come in. So this was a huge win. Absolutely adored it. I also read the, what's this called? Creep from the Deep, which is the second in the Goosebumps Horrorland series. So this is a series that came after Goosebumps, and I'm trying to decide if I want to read it or not. Not not all of the Goosebumps books are available at my library, but all of the Horrorland ones are. But these ones seem to be like they have their own story, and then they have a couple of chapters at the end that are like in Horrorland, and I think you might have to read them chronologically, and you might have to read, it might be better to read the books that these are based on. Like, because this Creep from the Deep reminded me of, there was one that's like Attack of the Shark Reef or Attack in the Shark Reef, something like that. The characters sounded familiar, and the characters for the next one sounded familiar, so I'm not sure whether it's smart to read these before finishing Goosebumps, or if I should just leave it, or if I have to read them in order, or if it doesn't matter. I don't know. They are more available. There's less hold on these than the Goosebumps books, so they're more accessible in terms of from the library, and the library has the whole thing where they don't have all of Goosebumps. Even if I get books from the physical library, there's still some that are just not available. And so I haven't read any of the regular Goosebumps this year. Usually I read them during like the commercials of like TV shows and stuff like that. And I'm like, I enjoy them, but I don't love them. But the completist in me sort of has this pull to like keep going. But I'm like, should I? But then every time I'm like, then I read one that I love, and I don't love all of them. I don't like the ones, like this one had siblings that don't get along, and I don't really enjoy that. But I don't know. What should I do? Should I keep on going with Horrorland? Should I go back to the regular Goosebumps? Should I ditch them all together? What do you think? I don't know. I just can't decide. What else do we got here? Okay, one book that I am really enjoying. This is a new start for me, and this is Maya and the Rising Dark by Renee Barron. This is my buddy read with Izzy, Punk Rock Girl PA, and you are welcome to join us in reading this together. It is the first book in a series, and the live show will be on Izzy's channel on Monday, March 29th at 7 p.m. EST. I'll leave a link to her channel up above. So yeah, this is like an urban fantasy contemporary world set with fantasy elements, or it's hard to tell. I'm only a couple chapters in, but it could be urban fantasy or retelling or mythology, something like that. I don't know, but I'm really enjoying it. It features Maya, who starts to see the world a little bit differently, and she's got a friend who is really interested in the weird and potentially supernatural, and then her dad travels a lot and brings things back from different travels. So there's lots of great kernels of where this story could go. It's totally up my alley. I'm super excited about it. It is the first in a series, and the second book is coming out later this year. Goodreads does have a third book listed. I don't know if it's going to be a trilogy or longer than that, but so far this has been a huge win. I'm really enjoying it, and looking forward to hearing what Izzy has to say about it, and I hope she likes it too. So there's that. Also, Book Club Nis is the Babysitters Club Super Mystery #1 by Anne M. Martin. This is Babysitter's Haunted House. And this is for the Book Sisters. They are doing a live show. I don't know actually if it's on Chloe's channel or Sarah's channel, so I think they said the best thing to do is to check their Instagram, which I'll put down below. So this is their middle grade March mystery choice. And this is a Babysitter's Club book. And their live show will be on Saturday the 27th, and check the Instagram. That's what they said to do, I think, was to check the Instagram for the time in the channel. So yeah, I haven't read tons of Babysitters Club. I think I read at least one, but they weren't actually that available in terms of they were so popular that they were always out at the library, and I never thought to either buy them myself or ask for them myself. I think I borrowed one from a friend at one point, but they were not really keen on lending them out. I didn't have one friend who had all of them, and I was so jealous. Like, I just was like, you have them all? Like, I didn't have any. Well, I got a couple. I had one book series, but it was like a all-in-one, not a as it comes out. I don't think I've ever had a physical book series where I bought the new books as they came out. I've actually, even as an adult, I don't think I've ever done that. do I want to do that? I don't know. I do feel like the Babysitter's Club is something that I missed out on when I was younger, so I'm actually really excited to be reading this and see if there's going to be other people that are like me, new to the Babysitter's Club. I know Sarah has read like all of them and has been reading them, Sarah the Bookish Knitter. So I'm curious. I'm really curious to see if I like it. I got it on Kindle. It was like $5 or something like that. And so I haven't started it yet, but I will soon. I don't usually read two middle grades at the same time, so I might have to be a little strategic on when I read Maya versus that one, or maybe I'll alternate days. I don't know. Anyway, so that's lots of reading. I also have lots of reading. I have lots of physical books that I am in the middle of, like that's just some of them. And so what I have actually been doing is I actually started to do the Wheel of Indecision, and because I have just hit decision fatigue big time recently. So what I decided to do was, and I was inspired by Sarah, who during one of the live shows for the Book Sisters, she shared that she uses for her TBR, she uses a wheel. And I'm like, yes, I have one of these. And so I use the Tiny Decisions app. And so I just put this is not my actual reading. This is October from like, I think 2019, because my actual wheel is on the phone I'm recording on. But this one is so I put all of my currently reading that I'm actively reading or interested in, and so after I finish up reading, right now it'll be Les Mis, like my committed reading, so like Les Mis and Maya is what I'm committed to, and then after that I just spin the wheel and whatever comes up is what I read. So if it was 2 years ago, it would be Hot and Hellcat Canyon, which I actually ended up marking that as unread. I only read 2 chapters, and I think contemporary romance just isn't my thing. So anyway, but if it was October 2019, that's what I would be reading right now. So and I've been sharing it on the choices on Instagram, and I've also been, one of the things I've also done is I have like the titles I'm reading, but then I also just put a sort of placeholder for some things where the title rotates all the time, like whatever my current manga is, or the current comic book that I'm reading, or kids book, picture book, because often actually picture books I read in one go. And so so it's been a lot of fun, and it's really, really helped combat decision fatigue. And I usually just put a timer on for 20 minutes, and then I read, and if I'm up for more reading, I just spin again, and then I read, and I just don't have to think about it. And I've made progress on a lot of titles that have just sort of I've left hanging. So it feels really good to do that, and to not spend any time trying to decide, because these are all like the decisions already have been made. I have started this book. I want to read this book. It's just, what do I want to read right now? If I make progress in anything, that's better than sitting there trying to decide. So it's just really, really helpful. So thanks to Sarah for that inspiration. And I don't know if she uses Tiny Decisions. That's the one I use. And it's great. It's just really, really great. And because it's like I already made the decision I want to do it. It's just, what do I do in this very moment? And it could be anything. Any progress is good progress. So so there we go. So that is how my reading week has been. I did do my February reflection, so that is up on the channel. I'll leave a link to it in the cards up above and down below. It was really great to see how the month went, some of the faves, what the stats were, all of that good stuff. And I do hope to have a new video up on the channel either Sunday or Monday. I'm still not up to my regular schedule, which had been about 3 videos a week, so I've been doing sort of 1 to 2, and I hope that's okay. That's what I got these days, so that's what I'm doing. And so I hope that you had a good reading week. Let me know what you're reading, and let me know, do you ever use the Wheel of Indecision? Wheel of Indecision? Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's been quite a week. All right, I hope that you are well, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks for watching.